we don't have an intro or anything like that, it's going to be pretty raw. We'll just be starting. But if we did, it would be something like wow, graphics, common sense, But we don't have that. So it's just going to be us rolling. So we might as well just start.
Introduce ourselves, possibly.
Why not do that? You want to start? Who are you?
I am Josh Van Duzer.
And I'm Brandon Baxterman. We're starting a podcast called Common Sense. We're kicking it off here in 2022. So we figured a good way to start something like this was we might as well look back at last year and just kind of wrap up 2021 and talk about not all, but some of the things that happened. I mean, I don't think we're going to be able to cover everything, and there's certainly stuff that we'll forget or miss, but 2021 was certainly an interesting year.
Yep. And in general, we had talked about the approach we're going to be taking is, the quote unquote common sense approach, just a practical approach at looking at these things and not being overly emotional about them, but
although I make no promises, I'll probably get emotional and irrational and
as will
and weird. But we're idiots. We'll do our best.
Should be interesting.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
So I mean, we might as well just kind of start at the beginning in January 2021, which there were some kind of significant events right off the bat there, as early as January 6th, and the most outrageous and just terrifying event that ever happened in American history.
The insurrection. The insurrection. It's actually funny.
Of, grandmas and old people just meandered around the Capitol building.
So as I was looking up, I actually Googled, top events for 2021 this year, and world events. I didn't want to focus on just America, so I just wanted to see what they would say. And sure enough, like top 3 was America's insurrection on the 6th, and it's
still talked about daily, like on Twitter and stuff like that.
I'm fascinated by the way that it's narrated as an insurrection. You and me obviously followed that and leading up to it very closely. I mean, I will make no quarrels. I voted for Donald Trump.
Yeah, same.
I believe he did win the election.
I would have been there probably if I lived locally. So
I do believe that there was some shady stuff that went down for him to be called the not so called president of the United States now.
Let's go, Brandon.
And need my t-shirt still. I have friends that went there, seen it happen. I follow quite a bit, actually, independent journalists that went inside the building even as journalists, and are now being charged by the FBI nonetheless.
Do you see? I love the FBI will share a picture of a person, be like, "Do you have any information on this participant?" And like the comments under those pictures are always hilarious. Like there was one right before Thanksgiving, and they were like, "Do you see this person sitting across the table from you at Thanksgiving? Report it to the FBI." Blah blah blah. And I was like, dude, like if I had a choice, I would much rather spend Thanksgiving with that person than you, crazy FBI.
I mean, what is there like? I watched most of the videos that are out, and there's like a handful of people.
They were smoking. They were smoking inside the building. That's, I think, probably the worst offense. That and then the murder that happened on camera, where the only victim of that whole thing, her name was Ashley Babbitt, and she's dead. And that was the biggest.
The cop shot her, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then like maybe breaking into like Pelosi's office and stuff like that, like. There was things that it was
podium, I think,
and they were still on laptops and stuff like that. Like none of that I condone or agree with at all. Like,
but also not an insurrection or not like
going into.
Oop, you froze up
that
a little
building.
Bit. Okay, there you're back.
They're right. They have the legal right.
It's our building, we employ you to work there, and that's what I was like. I think we should do this more often. I think every January 6th we should storm the Capitol.
Well, and
don't cancel us, YouTube, or wherever we post this.
And you go back and you watch videos from 4 years prior to that, since Donald Trump actually did get elected, leading up, and it was nothing from the Democratic leaders of, you go out and you
get in their faces,
and you just cause problems, and you go, you know what I'm saying? Like they
They were
they
constantly doing that. They're during the
themselves
Kavanaugh hearing, they were
incited.
storming buildings, they were pounding on doors, they were doing everything. The whole thing is like just hypocritical and ridiculous and kind of laughable. I mean, and that's not a bad thing in my opinion. Like, so that's lately I've kind of been on this kick where I'm like, you know what? Actually, Joe Biden's the best president we've ever had since Donald Trump. And it's because it one, like, it is funny. I'm like, and it's all ridiculous, like whatever. I'm glad that people are laughing at the president, because they should. There's no reason to like put these people on pedestals and act like they have any sort of, just like additional power or whatever. Or like, I mean, obviously they have power, but they don't they're not equipped for it. They're not, like, and that's the thing with like the job of like the president. No man is suited for, or woman, if you want, we could even go that. I don't think that it needs to be a gender based role, but like nobody is qualified for that position. Not a single person. There's just far too many aspects and things. There's no way that you could be, competent in all of those facets of the job. No one is, which is why it always ends up being a kind of a ran by a committee type thing. There is a shadow government. I do believe there is a deep state. All of that stuff is 100% true. And these people are just figureheads and can only, do so much. The rest is
and
out of their hands.
You also, I mean, we've talked multiple times about what we think government should look like. And at this point, I mean, like when you give these high level officials so much power, I mean, look at how many laws they're allowed to create constantly, and bills and just all these orders and stuff like that. If they didn't have that much power, but their power consisted of, okay, we need roads maintained nationwide.
Like the basics, the necessities.
We need electricity going from, California all the way to the East Coast and stuff that's going to affect the whole nation. But basic minor stuff. I mean, it's ridiculous how much. I guarantee if we went and looked at every committee that they have that have to look into all these different stupid things the government now needs to be in charge of. Well, no wonder no one's capable of or qualified. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, no one's qualified to do all that.
Well, my
stuff.
ideal president, like the ideal person in that situation, is somebody who just says no all the time. Whenever they come, like, hey, we got this new program. We want to do this. We want to go and get involved in this country. No.
Well, I like Trump's approach was like, for every one that you start, you have to eliminate two.
Right.
That was a really good way to start eliminating some of this stuff. I mean, you're still adding, but addition.
And don't get me wrong, Trump added, and there was a lot of, I mean, the national debt's way bigger than it whatever has been, and that's just going to keep growing up. But
that has less to do with the president and more to do with stupid people that love credit cards and stuff like that. I mean, as individual spenders, we have no right to point at the government for their spending.
Which kind of brings me to maybe one of the other kind of significant things that happened early on in the year was the meme stocks and cryptocurrencies. And like, I mean, Bitcoin was at an all-time high early on in 2021. You had the whole GameStop thing and AMC, retail investors jumping into the market and just really kind of changing things and really screwing over hedge funds, which was funny and like fun to be a part of, and kind of an interesting shift in just finance, and I mean, that whole world, just cryptocurrency in general, is blockchain technology, to be more specific, is super interesting. And I think going to be a big deal just moving forward, especially now that, I mean, we'll get maybe more into it later, but with the whole metaverse thing, which I'm not a big fan of by any stretch, but the web 3.0 or whatever they're calling it, like the new advancements in technology and all that, it's going to change the world, and I think good ways and bad, for sure. That's kind of, how a lot of advancement kind of goes. But did you get into any of that at all?
Yeah. Have you ever seen the movie Ready Player Now?
Oh, Ready Player One. Yeah. Or is it Ready Player Now? Is a different, like, it's Ready Player One is the,
okay.
Yep. And there's going to be a sequel coming out that I think
that's what it reminds me of.
Sure.
Like, or
everybody living in these VR worlds.
Bit prophetic. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like it, and how it's like the whole rest of the world just turns to shit because
I think there's like a term for that. They call it like predictive programming or something like that, where they show us stuff like in media and things first to kind of prepare us for like, this is where we're going. And you're going to live in crappy, dilapidated worlds, but you'll be in your VR world that is going to be beautiful. So you won't even care.
But that's it's interesting because it just eliminates responsibility
right
outside the real world.
It
And what's
eliminates
interesting,
a lot of things.
there's something beautiful in that movie that like I just love at the end of the movie. Which, spoiler alert, I don't really care.
It's old enough now. No,
Yeah.
if you haven't seen
I hate
Ready
when
Player
people
One
say
by now,
that.
it's your
Spoiler
fault.
alert on a 20-year-old movie. Like whatever.
Bruce Willis was dead the whole time.
Yeah. The creator, I don't remember dude's name in the movie, but like when he like the player wins or whatever, and he's talking to him about, you know, like why did he do that? And he goes, you know, this stuff's great and all, but
It's not
the
life. It's
the
not
real world's the only place you can get a decent bite to eat.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I know it sounds really like simple and stupid, but like I mean, my worldview, dude, Jesus loved meals, man. Like that was just a great way to actually
Sure.
interact with other people, dude. Like the fellowship in eating
Yep.
was what he looked at, not just eating food. And
have you heard this phrase? Have you heard you'll own nothing and you'll be happy? Have you heard that?
Yep.
So that's one of those things that they're pushing, and that's where that like the metaverse kind of will come in handy, because where like you won't really own anything, like because even now like with streaming and stuff, you know, it could all go away like that, and then now you have no music, you have no movies or whatever because you streamed them all on Spotify and Netflix, so you don't own anything. That's why I think there's going to be a kind of a bounce back. I think where people are going to want to own like, well, that's why I think like vinyl has seen a sort of a resurgence. People like to release music on vinyl, and it's cool to have that. I got a bunch of records right over here, and same thing with like just discs, whatever, CDs. It's if you those will be valuable, I think, in the future, especially if things continue down this path where that's not the the way the medium works anymore. You don't own it, but I do. I got the movie right here in my hands. I can hold it. You know, it's kind of an interesting deal where I think that some of those old, you know, like just that pile of DVDs that you have maybe isn't as worthless as you think, because those will be rare in the future.
My CD, I was noticing yesterday how like my CDs for my car, because I still have some in there and that's what I listen to, or the radio, has gotten so poor when like 10-15 years ago, dude, I had like 3 stacked books.
I mean, the books, you remember the books? I mean, we both were total,
like,
you know, just music freaks. So had huge CD books filled with hundreds of CDs. Each pocket I'd be jamming them in there. So it'd be like 5 CDs in one pocket.
Dude, love it.
And then I got into a car accident once and they all went flying all over the place. Damaged a lot of them. But yeah, that's one of those interesting things where, you know, we have less and less, and the things that we buy and we pay for aren't even real, you know. And like and that's with there are no doubt in my mind there are movies that we grew up on. Like I've been watching a lot of like YouTube movie reactions where they'll watch a movie, and it's funny watching like, well, it's both funny and sad, but watching like some millennial girl be all offended by Bill Murray and Ghostbusters, you know, or whatever stuff, like just these roles that we kind of grew up on. But there are some movies probably that cross the line too much to where once they have that kind of control, it's gone. It'll
Blazing
just disappear,
Saddles.
and you can't watch Blazing Saddles anymore.
Dude,
you know?
that's like the first movie that comes to mind, because they made it like that to prove a point.
Right.
It's actually a great movie. It's
classic.
hilarious. It's hilarious. And the black guy's the hero.
Mm-hmm.
So it just kind of defeats.
But he uses the
whole
N-word a lot, and there's
it's
humor that is not acceptable.
You know, I don't know, man. There's a lot of movies that I love that would just be so incredibly offensive.
You hear this a lot where people will say something like, you couldn't make that today. You couldn't do that movie today.
Yeah, but look at the ridiculous movies they're making today. I mean,
well, that's one of the things on my list is like movies suck. That's another thing that kind of just happened or continued in 2021. There are some good ones, and you'll find like kind of hidden gems, but for just all intents and purposes, mainstream Hollywood is just.
I'm trying to
terrible.
think the last good movie that I've actually seen.
One of my favorites, and I recommend it to anybody out there. And actually, another podcast that I do with my buddy Travis, we watched it and he reacted to it because I had seen it before. But it's called Brawl in Cell Block 99 with Vince Vaughn. It's pretty awesome. It's brutal, just like way violent, like over the top and like graphic violence, crazy, intense fighting scenes. And Vince Vaughn is huge and terrifying. Like, it's not the Wedding Crashers Vince Vaughn. It's not, old school Vince Vaughn, the funny Vince Vaughn that everybody's used to. He's got a shaved head, a giant cross tattooed in the back, and he just beats people to it. Like,
Not
it's
swingers.
crazy. It's a great movie. Brawl in Cell Block 99. I loved it.
Interesting.
But so
Yeah,
there
I've
are a
been-
few. There are some good movies that can pop up here and there. And then there's been like, I mean, so we talked about in one of our last hangs how, I mean, because a lot of this stuff it's total distraction. And when the world was going into lockdown mode because of the coronavirus and COVID-19, all anybody could talk about was Tiger King.
I know.
Have you seen Tiger King? Oh, we got Joe Exotic. And we got to talk about Tiger King. Like, garbage. That's all we just, and I watched it all. I watched Tiger King for sure. But
Yeah, I watched it.
I think everybody
It
did.
was
Like, it's wild. And it's crazy. Like, people out there. Yeah,
I'm
those people
probably
exist.
not entertained the same way. I don't know. Like I watch that stuff, but I'm usually just so disturbed the whole
Right.
time that it's like watching a car wreck, like you you shouldn't watch it, but you still do.
Mhm.
But the whole time you feel like crap, like your stomach hurts and you're like, this is just wrong on levels that, and I'm like, I don't even mean that in a judgmental way. I just mean like,
There's no value in this. Like, what's the redemptive value or the,
and the
what do you
whole
get out
time,
of
like,
it?
I don't know, like, I really felt just incredibly uneasy watching it the
Yeah.
whole time, like these incredibly depraved, really sad people. I mean,
Have you heard any of Joe Exotic's music?
oh my Lord.
Pretty amazing.
Is
He's
it
a
just
fantastic country artist.
Carol
Yeah. Hilarious. But so yeah, like that was I mean, a huge so things like that'll go viral. Or we got one of the recent ones was Squid Game. Did you watch Squid Game?
Nah,
Decent. Now that's one of the things that getting into kind of music and movies and how I'm just tired of celebrities, all of these people, these arrogant sort of I mean, I'm getting lectured by Nicki Minaj and stuff like that. It's kind of ridiculous. So like I've been really into like foreign stuff. Like I like listening to like K-pop or whatever, where I can't understand a single word they're saying. And I'm glad because I'm like, I'm sure if I could follow you, I'd probably hate this too, but I have no idea what you're saying. So it's just pleasant, melodies and rhythms. And I can stomach that far more than like Billie Eilish or whatever's going on now,
Yeah, lucky for me, I'll just be honest, I stay so outside the mainstream. Like uh,
I'm
I
even
know who
losing though,
Billie
like,
Eilish is, but I know very little about her. I
Sure.
don't know her in her music.
But even
I
like
don't-
some of the old, like the classic stuff, like the stuff that we grew up on, I'm like, oh, I don't know. There's a lot of garbage out there. Even some of the stuff that we laughed and talked about recently because they just released a new album around Halloween was Limp Bizkit. And we like both. I mean, I'm putting us both on blast here right now. We loved and ate up Limp
Oh
Bizkit.
yeah, but did I not like my when I seen like when I listened to their new album and I was just like the name of the
title
album
is
was
appropriate.
Just, yeah, it just so it's not just a clever name, like
Right. Limp
you
Bizkit
guys
still
sucks.
Yeah.
Like, and then I even went back and was listening. It was hilarious. I'm sitting there listening to like some of the songs off Nookie, just whatever. And Paige walks downstairs and looks at me, and I'm like,
What are you
"Oh, don't
listening
get me wrong. Half these are like, yeah, this is just horrible." Dude. Like,
Yeah.
But whatever. I'll own it, man. I had a great time. Good memories.
I watched actually earlier today. It was like a countdown of the top music videos or whatever from 2021, and most of them I had never even heard of. Like I mean, these are people like who's Pop Smoke?
That's just
the person that's on the list. I'm like,
if
Pop
I
Smoke,
looked up
huh?
like the top 100, like
Yeah,
songs,
you'll know 4, maybe. And you'll know them because of me. You'll know
Yeah.
BTS because I wouldn't shut up about BTS. There you go. That's one of my K-pop.
But other than that, yeah, I don't know who any of these people are. I definitely don't. And it's funny because like 90% of them now are like hip hop or whatever the heck they
Right.
want to call themselves. Which really makes it funny with their whole argument about opportunity and this and that. Because it's like you look
They're
at
being
certain
oppressed,
areas,
Josh. Even
I
though they're
know.
number 9 on the Billboard charts and everybody's, trampling people to death at their concerts, they're still completely oppressed and victims. And we are the oppressors and need to be punished.
Well,
for it.
I mean, getting $200 million NFL contracts is so rough.
These poor
You know,
people.
like
Those poor people.
I can't imagine. Can't imagine.
So yeah, and that's another one. I mean, there's this the world of sports. Remember when they were playing to empty arenas? Did you watch any of that? I mean, I can't even like that's. It seemed like I was watching a scrimmage at a practice. It meant nothing to me. I couldn't even. I turned him off and was like, I'm not in. I don't even like it
So
when there's people there. Like that's I
most
don't
of the
care about
games
sports.
here aren't aired. I mean, I live, you know, by
Kind
the
of.
Detroit Lions who never win anything. So they
Unless
don't.
they play the Vikings.
I did like the fact that the Broncos beat them the week after just to show the Vikings how you actually beat a crappy team. No,
Yeah.
that was funny. Like I actually seen. I haven't watched a lot of football this year, but we were at my nephew's birthday party at the bowling alley, and they had the Vikings Detroit game on. And the last quarter, I'm watching this game, and I'm like, man, Detroit's gonna give this game away, and then they did, and then nope. I was like, oh, dude, that's
You think you can out blunder the Vikings? I have news for you.
Well, it's funny because everyone here kept going, oh, they're not going to win a game. I'm like, dude, they're going to win one game. I'm like, it's actually harder to lose every game than it is to win every game. That's,
Sure.
you know, Detroit did it once, but that's one time in NFL history that anyone went and whatever, you know. So yeah, and especially when you're playing teams like the Vikings, dude, they play them twice a year, every year. You know, like you know those teams better than everyone else does. You can just pull stuff off sometimes that you normally wouldn't be able to.
I love though when they were doing the playing to empty stadiums when they would put like cardboard cutouts of people in there.
Dude, that was ridiculous. Dude, if I was a player, I would just be like, what the heck is this? Like it would throw me off. I'd be like, I'd rather just have an empty stadium.
Right.
Than these
What
weird
are we fooling here. You know,
or like they kept them in there when they would bring people in though too. I think you noticed
still
that.
not full capacity.
Yeah, I mean, so imagine you're sitting there and like 4 seats away is like a whole family of
Dr.
cardboard.
Fauci got to go to a baseball game real early in the deal though. That was a big
of course
picture
they all
and
did.
film clip going on because he had the mask down and stuff.
Well, I mean, to be honest, that was a big thing with me of being like, I'm not going to sit here and like listen to people that do completely opposite constantly of what they tell everyone else to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't just 1 or 2 people. I mean,
no,
every governor, including my own,
my own too. Yeah.
that sat there and made all these crazy restrictions. Every one of them got busted.
Like going somewhere, being like yeah, like
oh, that only applies to the you little
rules
people.
for
like
rules for thee and not for me or whatever people
quote
say.
unquote science.
Yeah.
It's like
trust the science. Like scientists can't be bought, like doctors can't be bought, like people can't be wrong or corrupt or whatever. There's just a whole
my favorite
like there's not like there's complete agreement in the field of science. There's not.
My favorite quote, this is, and I don't know who penned this, so whatever, but it's just great. It's that science doesn't say anything, scientists do.
Right.
Yep. Science is this data. All we do is observe, and then we create thesis, and we observe more.
And you can spin it, you can do whatever.
Yep. And sometimes the data will totally match what your intended thesis was, and then you can say, hey, this is most probable. But even then, like a lot of times it's still most probable, not 100% true. And then we go out here with these narratives that this is true 100%, and then I mean, it doesn't even take a month for them to be contradicted by the actual data that comes out.
Well, there was a big like I mean, Kamala Harris said that she would not take a vaccine that Trump did or whatever. Like all these
Trump doesn't make vaccines either, which is also interesting. It's like,
but then he wasn't the president anymore, and now it's another person talking about it. That's like, line up. We're all in now. We're all on board now.
Are we even going to bring up the fact that this year we had more COVID deaths than we did the year before?
That does not support the narrative, so no, we're not going to bring that up. We just will ignore that.
Cut. Yep. It's like
edit that, cut that out.
Now, granted, like I'm not going to put a whole lot of salt in either one of those statistics because of how they rate COVID deaths and all that. I mean, you're driving down the highway and you get smashed by a car and you die and you had COVID, you died from COVID.
Well, I believe like right now too, if you don't have like the most current booster, you're considered unvaxxed. So you could be like 2 shots in, but you haven't got that third. So it's like, we got another unvaxxed over here.
Well, and Johnson & Johnson was just a 1 So I don't.
And
I
I
don't think
just
they
saw an
developed
article
a
today
booster.
that like the CDC came out and said that Pfizer and Moderna are better than Johnson and Johnson.
Well,
It's like
Johnson and
whatever, they're
Johnson
all
also got pulled for a little while, if you
right.
remember this, for the
Yeah.
same reason that they're saying it's better, because of unexploded blood clots. And oddly enough, dude, like you keep seeing people talking about, oh, you know, so and so had this weird blood clot and a stroke all of a sudden. They're only 30 years old, and it's like,
Well, now I'm seeing like propaganda. It's just propaganda everywhere. But like they'll be like, you know, kids can have strokes too. Kids have strokes, and that's like they're
yeah,
just again preparing you for the
just
onslaught of
like
kids that are going to start having strokes.
just like perfectly healthy babies just die in their cribs in the middle of the night from nothing.
Right.
You know, like I don't remember what the syndrome's called, but they literally,
SIDS.
yeah, SIDS, that they just, kids, just perfectly healthy babies just die in the middle of the night. It's like,
Sounds normal.
they don't die in the middle of the day or nothing.
It's going to
just
be
in
when
the
they're
middle of the
sleeping.
night.
Yeah.
And it's like, and funny enough, like it'll always be right after these stupid vaccines, you know, and it's like, so you can just say they just died in the middle of the night. And I mean, I don't, you know, I don't need to get into that too much, but it's interesting how we will never look at the side effects and ever have as much fear, if you will, as you do from anything else.
Countless
the
other
flu, a
things.
cold,
Yeah.
COVID, I don't care what it is, you
Let's
know.
just throw all the other possibilities out the window. Yeah, and that's, I don't blame anybody for like having doubts about the medical industry. You know, it's an industry. It's a business. You know, and I mean, there's people pointed out that there's no money in a cure. The cures, or the money's in the treatments. So, and there's definitely value to that. And I don't know, like there's just a lot to be skeptical of. So I'm again, as like a, you know, a sort of libertarian or somebody who's all about individual freedom and choices, you can take it, all the stuff. You can go to your doctor all the time. You can do everything they recommend to you. I don't care. Go ahead, do that. Take all the vaccines, do all the stuff. But then on the same hand, like you can just not even go to a doctor for, you know, as long as you want, and don't take any of the things. Please, by all means, go for it. You're free to make that choice. And it's when people start forcing things that I'm like, well, we're about to fight. I'm going to fight. I'm ready and willing to fight to the death for my freedom. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah,
What
I'm not willing to just do it just because you say so.
right.
You know, like that's and it's not even trying to be combative or a rebel or any sort of fashion like that.
I'm
like
constantly doing the math. I'm taking in data and seeing what's going on, and I'm coming to a conclusion, you know. And like, your best bet is to convince me that you're right, that you have the answer, that you're, you know, a solution is the better one, and I should go with you. You're failing to do that. The world's failing to do. Dr. Fauci and all these nerds are failing to do that. I do not buy it. I don't believe you. And
well, not
all
only
there
that,
is.
but the doctors that I follow, and personally my own personal doctor, like I trust them. I
Yeah,
trust
and I've
the
seen plenty
information
of
they've given me.
disagreement in that field with people like
Mhm.
that. So it's like, you know, take your pick. Who do you want to listen to?
And
I
it's
mean,
been 2 years, and what I've done has worked for me. So like I'm going to use the same thing that they will say. It's
you saw
whatever,
Sanjay Gupta
very
on Rogan, right?
pragmatic. Yes.
Pretty hilarious. That was a
I
pretty awesome
did you see him like the next night or
on
the two?
CNN, then kind
Yeah.
of backpedaling again even
And
further.
even really back and just completely letting Don Lemon just completely berate him for
Yeah.
allowing Rogan to call him out for the truth. I mean, I dude, like I don't, Rogan is like
He's just
hit
a
or
dude. He's a
he's
comedian. He's funny
he's like hit or
sometimes.
miss with me,
Yeah,
you know, like I don't, there's some stuff I just think he's an idiot. Like listen
sure.
to him talk about Christianity, he just sounds
Mhm.
like a moron, you
Yep.
know. But with that stuff, he was just pushing him, and he was calm, he was nice. I don't think he was disrespectful, but he was like, bro, like you guys straight lied.
Yeah.
Just why you're the one, you're the doctor, you know, like you knew they were lying and that they were wrong. You
Mhm.
should have said something, you know. And finally he was like, yeah.
Admitted
Like
it, but then later on was kind of like,
whatever though, dude. Millions, a million people saw that. I'm
yeah.
sorry, Rogan's got a massive.
He's way more
audience.
influential than CNN is, and thank God. Like that's a good thing. I'd rather have people listening to Joe Rogan than CNN. That's for sure.
And what they said was absolutely a lie. Mm-hmm. Everything they said about him was a lie. And the funny part is
medicine. He's prescribed to a human by a doctor. It's human medicine.
And if you were smart enough to follow Rogan, because he actually took a video right when he took everything, just to tell everybody, and to was fully like full disclosure,
transparent about it. Yeah, 100%.
And then 24 hours later, he was back on air. Fine.
Yeah. He's like, well,
and then he's had multiple friends contacting Aaron Rodgers,
who played a game immediately after. Like, it was hilarious. Like, it's just constantly like making these people look ridiculous because this disease that's a death sentence.
Keep in mind too, for him to play that game, he had to test negative.
Right. So not only did he like feel well enough and was, just on top of his game enough to play well, he was, I'm going to sneeze. And now I'm not, probably because I said something. I might though. It might come out of nowhere. So just be ready for that, people.
But like Dana White, Donald Trump took the same exact,
like
and dude, that dude was
antibodies,
running the country.
Yeah.
And I love it too, because he went to the hospital to take said treatment, and they're like, "Oh, he's in the hospital." And it's like, just anywhere to narrate this to be worse. And here's the funny thing too: name one major official that's died from COVID.
Off the top of my head, no. Herman Cain, but he had cancer too and stuff. And he wasn't like an elected official,
or
whatever,
but he was like 80 years old.
He's old. He had cancer. He, was there's a lot.
All right, I'll give you Herman Cain, but even that, like, that's
see how I had to stretch and look. I mean, there's nothing coming to me.
2 years. Keep in mind, it's been 2 years, dude.
Well, when we were talking right before we went on about this last year, I lost a lot of people. There was a lot of death in my life, and only one of them had even any sort of remote connection to COVID, and even that wasn't it. Like, I mean, there were definite comorbidities. She was older, had emphysema, all that kind of stuff. I think the COVID thing was more a coincidence than anything, Who knows? Again, I'm not a doctor. We're not doctors. We should maybe say that too. And I'm never going to pretend to be a doctor. I don't care. I think doctors are nerds anyway. Get away from
neither is 90% of the people that comment on this on the other side either. Right. So like, that doesn't need to be a disclosure as long as they're not either. You know what I'm saying? Like, neither is most of the people on TV.
No.
Like, they're not doctors. Even half the ones that call themselves doctors aren't. I mean, this is like the funny thing. Like my school board, we have a doctor on our school board. The dude's a veterinarian. And I'm not trying to like disrespect vets.
Are you a doctor or are you a Jill Biden doctor? That's a question that people ask a lot.
I can go get a PhD, like a doctorate in divinity, and they would call me doctor, but my doctorate would be in theology. Like, that doesn't make me qualified whatsoever to talk about
my boss
medicine.
at the church here, Pastor Ali, always likes to say he has more degrees than Fahrenheit because he's got tons of degrees and he is a doctor, but he's a Jill Biden doctor, not a doctor.
You're not like, hey, this dude's having a heart attack. Oh, I'm a doctor.
Is there a doctor in the house? Right here. I got you.
I'm a doctor. Can I pray for him? Like,
what else you got on your list for 2021?
I got Norm Macdonald.
Oh man, one of the best ever. Rest in peace, Norm. That old
as we did already kind of talk on entertainment a little bit, but I figured since I knew we were gonna smash it a little bit because it is just mostly crap and
garbage.
I really don't care. I'll be honest, I don't care about your people's opinions. I don't care.
Right.
No, like, I don't even have Twitter, so like what you guys tweet, I don't care because I don't see it. And like,
so you're not up on Seth Rogen's tweets?
No. And for these people to stay relevant, that's what they do. They go out and
desperate for
social justice warriors. And I have way more respect for actors that I know nothing about or are never in the media.
For sure. But they all have enough fans to validate their opinion that makes them then think that, see, I'm right.
Oh, dude, it's crazy the echo chambers these people live in. It's fascinating.
But Norm Macdonald, what a boss, man. I mean, and that's another one where, he fought cancer for like 9 years and said nothing.
I know. No one knew. And that dude was hilarious. Dude, he was just out and about. Like, he didn't hide from anything. Like, I just love a dude that'll go out and live life and do it risky. I mean, dude,
Yeah.
you want to talk about risk? I mean, to be a great comedian, you just have to be risky. And
Which is why
he like,
comedy is dead right now, aside from a small handful of people keeping it alive. But the mainstream people are just cringe. Nothing but
um,
ridiculous.
it's just if you can't offend somebody, and
You need to risk
it's a
offending to
joke.
be funny, right? You got because it is like about
It's a
walking that
joke.
line,
The
and it's
whole
a
point. It's
joke.
called
Laugh at it.
comedy.
The
You know.
best comedians are pretty self-deprecating. Though you got to be able to laugh at yourself too to be funny. You
Well,
know,
I weren't comedies from like in Britain, and they would like make fun of the bad stuff, right? To like kind of make light of a shitty situation,
sure,
essentially.
yeah,
So it's like, isn't
it's
that
therapeutic.
kind of
There's
what you're doing?
catharsis
Like,
there. Yeah,
yeah, that you find the funny stuff and like making jokes about racism.
mm-hmm.
Dude, if you really think that there's this a systemic epidemic racism problem,
Then
then
joke
you
about it.
just go out and pick these
Yeah,
dumbasses apart, dude. Because yes, there are some redneck idiots out there that like, I'm gonna go hate me some black people. Why? Because they're just black.
right. I'm sure that exists. It's
You know,
not
like
the
make fun of them,
yeah,
dude, but
make
be
fun of them,
clever. You know, like
drag
yeah,
them.
like just like, and this is why the left just can't stand anything because
They
they get
can't meme either.
mocked and ridiculed so much
Yeah.
because
You
they
can
are
definitely
just
tell a leftist meme just immediately by looking at it
yeah,
because it'll be
because
like
they're
way
just
too
not funny.
wordy or not funny. Like they don't get it. But like Norm, there's a great highlight clip on YouTube of like just nothing but Norm laughing and cracking jokes about 9/11,
Mhm.
and it's very very funny, you know. Or yeah, and like you said, race. There's tons of race stuff on there. Anything it's all fair game, and anything can be funny. And if you're trying to be funny, you should get a pass on whatever. And that was a great Patrice O'Neill, but he died, quite a while ago. But he, that was his deal. Where it's like, well, were they trying to be funny? And if the answer to that is yes, and whether it doesn't matter if you get it or not, because not every joke or whatever is going to be for you. So just because you
Dude,
don't get it doesn't mean it's not funny. You don't get it. That's what it means.
oh, it locked. Well, and I mean, I get offended in jokes sometimes, so
I'm
it's not,
offended all the time, actually. That's
you
something I
know.
talk about. Like, I'm constantly offended. The difference is I know it doesn't matter, so I'm not going to say anything about it, or I'm not going to make a big deal about it.
But there's also, dude, like with everything going on in this country and with how crazy everybody is right now, like the thing that ends that stuff is laughter.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, man. You get a good laugh going on, dude, it just helps. And
definitely.
there is nothing better than a great comedian
Mm-hmm.
in those instances, man. I think back at some of the stuff where I just like my side hurt. It was because
Mm-hmm.
you just had that dude or woman or whatever that could just push that boundary with comedy, you know?
Well, I recommend anybody to watch. Norm Macdonald has a show on Netflix. Watch him interview people. He's a great interviewer, and the people that he has on, even like there are plenty that I completely disagree with. Like he had Jane Fonda on, and that was a great episode, And but also I found somebody uploaded on YouTube a bunch of episodes from the Norm Macdonald show back in the day, which was like a sitcom. Laurie Metcalf was in it, and I never watched it when it was on. It was on like in the late '90s, and I vaguely remember it from that time. But I've been watching it on YouTube, like right after Norm died. Like that was all I did was watch Norm Macdonald videos on YouTube, and that's where I found it. And this series was hilarious. It was so good. I wish I would have been watching it then. It was super funny, and Norm is the man. Always will be. He's one of the greats for sure.
I think the hard part now with media is there's so much, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's easy to miss stuff now because it's
Yeah.
like, dude, go on YouTube. It's like,
Well, and that's and I forget that often. Like, I mean, I'll be like watching somebody listening to a music, and I just assume everybody knows what I'm talking about, right? But no, like a great example of that would be podcasts. And like, I mean, I like to talk to people about that. I do a radio show, and I have guests on all the time, and podcasts will come up, and I'll ask them, like, so you listen to podcasts? What kind of podcasts you listen to? And like every time they're rattling off stuff that I've never even heard of. And then I tell them the podcast I listen to, and they have no idea what I'm talking about. So it's like there is like just so much media out there. It's crazy.
well, and I'm sure in the last 2 years, podcasts have probably, I mean,
Well, we just started one.
Yeah, I mean, and
Everybody with a microphone and a computer has a podcast.
yeah,
now.
it's become so easy. And, like if people are willing to listen, I'll talk.
Yeah,
Like, I
why
have no
not?
problem with that. So
What else you got on your list?
what do I got? I got nuclear agreement with Australia and the US, which, you know, it's funny because politics, I'm not super savvy on it, even
Especially
though I just
geopolitics,
watch.
the world.
Geopolitics are super interesting, but they're super confusing because I
Mm-hmm.
think they're incredibly complicated.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, I mean, dude, there's so many countries in this world. There's tons of language barriers, cultural barriers, um, and everybody has their own agenda.
Right.
So it's like when you see, you know, I know it was mainly between the US and Australia, but I think there was like five countries involved with that agreement. You know, it's like for a dink like me in the middle of Michigan, oh great, we just signed a nuclear agreement. But it's like I mean, dude, we're giving them our nuclear secrets, which does that really matter? I don't know. You know,
Right.
like, but it might, you know, and like with other countries involved, like there's always way more to this stuff than just, oh, we're just being nice with showing them some nuke subs and stuff, you know. It's like, yeah, I don't know. But I just when I seen that, it's a fascinating thing. And Biden doing a lot of like moves that would have been totally contrary to what Trump was doing, which is
Or then
you
even if
expect that
Trump would have done
sometimes.
them, people would have been outraged by it. You know, like how dare he do this? That's crazy. He's putting us at risk or whatever. You know,
That's
like
the
this.
other that's the other thing. Maybe, and you know, maybe it is just they were doing the same things. It's just how they're narrated. I mean, look
Right.
at the border. In fact, the border's gotten worse this year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're saying we're already up to like 1.7 million illegals, which is crazy, dude. Like, that's a lot of people that you just don't know who or where they are, you know.
Right.
And that's nothing. Not, you know, a couple of news stories on the El Paso,
Mm-hmm.
the where they were like hiding under the bridge for a little bit, the Haitians. Um, well, and it's like stuff like that. It's like, how are people from Haiti? I mean, once you get
How
the
did you
whole
get here? That's a
story,
big
you know,
question
but
that
it
I think should be
wasn't
asked to
like
everybody.
directly from Haiti at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Like they had been at the southern border of Mexico for I think months, 7 6 7 months or something. And finally we're just like, what did they have? Like the Mexican independence? They had 3 days, and Mexico was like, well, if you can get to the border. So they did. They just bum rushed the border, and it was like, oh, okay, that makes a little more sense. But it's like, you know, this is just not addressing it and just calling it things is insane. You know what I'm saying? Like and not even us, the European Union is having the same problems,
Yeah.
you know, and like, I just find it fascinating that if white Westerners decided to just go into Zimbabwe and start doing that,
I think they'd have a problem.
I would imagine they would have a freaking conniption fit.
Yeah.
And it's like, you guys, I don't even
Well, that's what
understand
I
that.
want to do is I want to like move to Japan and then demand that they stop all their nonsense and start acting like me. Like, no, we're not doing this. Take your shoes off in your paper doored buildings anymore. I'm keeping my shoes on and we need to sit at a table with chairs and stop with the weird robes and whatever. Like, it's offensive to me that you people do this here. No, if I moved to Japan, I'd be speaking the language within a year. I'd be observing all of their, customs and just whatever. I'd like out of respect for the place that I'm at that has me there.
Which
Um,
is fascinating because like America, you can't even crack down American customs. Like we're so culturally diverse that like you can do your customs. That's not the problem
mhm.
anyone has. But you do have to respect like our culture, that we do have a culture,
Yeah,
and specifically our laws. Like if I go to any other country, I either respect their laws or I will be punished by their law enforcement. Like that's just expected everywhere you go, except somehow if you come here, our laws simply don't apply to you.
right.
But somehow our constitution protects you, which then makes even less sense. You know, there's a lot of like I don't know if some of these people actually think this stuff out when they say it. It sounds good. I
Hmm.
really just think it goes back to self-preservation and really wanting to be liked, like the part of the group.
Right.
And if you get in an echo chamber where you think everyone really does believe that, you don't want to be the
The odd man,
racist
right?
jerk on the
Yeah.
outside. So of course, I think that's where a lot, especially younger people, are getting sucked into this. Because I mean, you go to college and you're just surrounded by liberals.
Yeah. All like, and no, it doesn't matter where you
You
go. That's
might think you're wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like we're so bred that the majority's right all the time. You know,
right.
like that's basically how I was taught
And
facts
that's
are.
not true.
Well, the
I was like,
majority determines facts, and it's like, no,
nope.
facts determine facts. You
One
know,
like a quote that kind of stuck out with me, like, and it's a kind of a graphic or vulgar one or whatever, but like in a gang rape situation, 9 out of the 10 people voted to be there. You know, does that make it right? The majority is willing participants and wants to be there. So we're doing this. Sorry for that one. You're the minority here. You don't get a vote.
I know.
It doesn't, it doesn't apply to every situation, but yeah, in a gang rape situation, the majority of the people wanted to be there.
Well, and that's just like you basically put general laws of logic to most of these arguments, and they just fall apart. And that's but that's half the argument, right? Like we can't use those laws of logic because that's some
It's white
oppressive
supremacy
tool.
is what it is. So knock
Yeah,
it off. Knock it off.
which they are using logic to determine that. It's so self-defeating, dude. I don't have many conversations with these people, so it's like
Yeah, no.
I'm fascinated. It'd be interesting to do a study on crazy leftism
Just
and
follow the social media account Libs of TikTok and enjoy.
the very postmodern worldview that they carry. Like nothing's true except my truth, which is a total contradiction.
Right.
Because if nothing's true, then what you just said can't be true either.
Yep.
You know, and it's like, but they're convinced that what they're saying is true, and it's like, okay, you know, like it's fascinating.
Afghanistan was
Oh,
a big deal.
the largest U.S. military debacle ever.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, it went wrong in every possible way that it could, and was just sort of embarrassing to watch happen. And
You know, the people
completely preventable.
is messed up, but I think that's less of the issue because a lot of them could have left prior to that. Like they knew it was coming. And I'm not blaming them for not leaving. I'm just saying that's not as cut and dry, I think, as some of the media wants it to be either. Because there's people still there that aren't going to leave.
Right.
It's not about they couldn't get out or no one would get them out. They're like, dude, we're not going to leave just because the Taliban's now. But that's part of this too. They have completely allowed the Taliban to they run Afghanistan.
Yeah.
So we went back all the way back to 2001. We've just eliminated 20 years worth of stuff. And on top of that, like the thing that got me was all the military stuff. I mean, drones, dude, you're talking crazy equipment.
Did you see that Trump clip going on where he's talking about that General Milley telling him that it was cheaper and better for us to just leave all that stuff there? And in the long
cheaper
run,
maybe for us, but like the thing is like the Taliban would never ever in a million years be able to develop that kind of technology.
But Trump's line to that when he said that, he was like, and that's when I knew he's a fucking idiot. As only Trump could do.
Woke equals loser.
Yep. Oh, hilarious. But so yeah, Afghanistan was a debacle. That video of the plane flying out, leaving the runway with just people piled onto the wing like they were gonna just hitch a ride home or like out of there on the outside of a plane.
And here's the thing, if you go back to I don't even know, this is maybe in the 80s, I think it was 70s, 70s or 80s. Russia did the same thing, dude. Mm-hmm. They invaded Afghanistan. They had a long, super drawn out war. And it's because of the topography of that country, dude. These guys hide out in the mountains, and it is impossible to fight them. In fact, the only way that they had any success was with the helicopters, because they could fly them in there and just bomb the crap out of them, But even then, like it's so random, and they struggled. And the second they left, because Russia was like finally like so depleted,
like, we gotta go.
They're like, dude, we can't do this. And the second they walked out, they created a vacuum, and the Taliban started. And what had happened, it was like all these kids that lived in Afghanistan were sent out to all the countries around there, which were essentially taught in extremist Islam schools. So
Mm-hmm.
when they came back, that's what the Taliban is now. So they have a sense of nationalism, but they didn't grow up in Afghanistan, and they have incredibly
Some of them
extreme
grew up
Islamic.
here and like went
Yeah,
to American schools and stuff.
but most of them are extremist Islam. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not just Muslims. No, they're extremists, dude.
Mm-hmm.
They believe in an extreme Islam government. That's what Taliban is. They're government. They
Yep.
think they are. They
That's
act
what
and run like
Islam
one.
is it's not just a religion, it is a ideology and a system and a government
And I
essentially.
mean, essentially, Christianity should be too. It's just the way that we approach it is different.
Yeah.
Like Islam has no problem being military driven, but like Christianity just claimed the gospel. Like it
Mm-hmm.
was literally like, we just talk, you believe, but it should have implications that even trickle all the way up to government. Like if we had devout Christian leaders at the top of government, yeah, you would see a country be a lot different. Just like, I mean, look at it, Iran. I mean, they have an extreme Islamic state. I mean, they are
Mm-hmm.
Islamic state, and they do not tolerate any defiance. You know what I'm saying? It's just very concrete, and it's a lot different. You know what I'm saying? Like,
And that's where with the whole Afghanistan thing, I mean, like I'm all for like leaving there and for like not because that's foreign wars don't
we
turn
should
me
have
on at
never
all.
went there.
Right.
We
We
should
should
have
never
never
went
went
there. We should
there.
pull up, but like the way that it was done and how that like it was just a debacle. Yeah, for sure.
I like Jocko Willink, the way he talks about war, because he's been in a lot of wars, and he was a really high up of like his ranking and stuff like that. Like he understood it at a level higher than like a foot soldier,
Mm-hmm.
even. And I just the way he explains it is like everyone that goes to war just needs to rate the cost because there is tons of it.
Yeah.
And he goes, unfortunately, a lot now leaders don't even think about the cost. They
When
just
it,
go in and do
well,
stuff,
because and
and
they're yeah, and like definitely not like government leaders or whatever. I mean, like they send the poor. It's not them or their family. I mean, Joe Biden did have a kid that served. Whatever, big deal. That's not typical. It is sort of
well,
it's like
usually like
abstract. It's not even like it's not direct kind of but to like common people, like we all know people that have served and fought over, and I know people that come back and they're never the same,
no, in fact, a lot of suicides. I mean, PTSD
was
was
it
not.
22 a day, and I think it's even more than that now.
Well, what's amazing is that like I know that World War II vets probably had a lot of psychological issues when they came
Mm-hmm.
back. I mean, I don't think you can kill somebody and not have problems,
Yeah, for sure.
but like it didn't seem like they had nearly as much. And I think World War II was way more brutal than anything that's happened in the last 20 years that soldiers saw
Yeah,
happen. You know
it
what
was
I'm
a
saying?
different
Like,
style of warfare too at the time, more
but because a lot of the PTSD now is from like shock, like they'll
mm-hmm.
get shock from like just launching bombs all day, like
Mm-hmm.
like, like their brain shock and stuff. And it's like, that's crazy. These dudes are all come back and then basically just get left like
Left
no one
behind, like
cares.
you can't
Yeah.
yeah. Well, let's move on to a more fun topic, which is billionaires in space. That's a
Oh,
new
dude, Elon.
Elon, Jeff
Time
Bezos, Times
times
Person of the Year.
person of the year.
I like Elon Musk. I think he's hilarious. I think he's a interesting person too, and I like a lot of like Tesla and the things that they're doing there. He's not that your typical like him and Jeff Bezos to me are not the same type of figure.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree. I think they're like Bezos
Polar
is your
opposites, basically.
typical. He reminds me of people that is plucking money in every government official's pocket. Like it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
even matter. And I'm not saying Elon doesn't pay people to get what he wants to. I mean, I don't think he's an idiot and he's a billionaire, but I don't
Did
know.
you see his?
He's
Well, so you're not on Twitter, but he was going back and forth with Elizabeth Warren the other day.
oh
She was going
Lord.
after him for like to pay taxes or whatever and stuff like that. And he's like, I'm paying more than any American will pay this year. But he called her Senator Karen, which is pretty funny. He's like, call the manager Senator Karen.
And Pocahontas.
She's 162nd whatever. I can't even remember what the percentage was.
One
of her.
164th.
Yeah. Hilarious. But so like Elon's great. I think he's funny, and he was a big, kind of motivator in that early crypto world too, which we just kind of briefly touched on with Bitcoin and Dogecoin and all that kind of stuff. But he definitely comes off to me as more a man of the people than somebody like Jeff Bezos, although obviously Elon Musk is in a completely different tax bracket for sure, but just a different world. He lives in a different world than we do.
He's
sense.
a fascinating character because if you look at his enterprises, I mean, that dude just has crazy ideas and is not afraid to throw every cent at it until it works. So like digging the tunnels,
he's a risk taker for sure.
Yeah, the tunnels out in LA.
I
mean,
the
that is
Boring
a
Company,
crazy,
which is just that in itself is a genius thing. The Boring Company.
Yeah,
they're boring holes, but it's
but
kind of boring.
He's also a smart guy and realizes that all his technology has implications outside of what he's using it for, which is why the government loves him, because like SpaceX is probably getting billions from the government now from like rocket technology and whatever the heck they're doing. I mean, we don't even get to see what 1% of what is actually happening. You know what I'm saying? Like this stuff becomes a lot of no one gets to know about it because it's top secret basically. You know what I'm saying? Like but he's a crazy dude. And at this point, whatever he says he's gonna do, I'm just like, all right, I can't wait.
I know he's going to try to do it. He's going to put everything he has into doing it for sure. Yeah.
Tesla, like I still
want
like
one. I want a Tesla.
I think they're cool and stuff. Like I will never let a car drive for me.
No, I probably would. I would use the autopilot thing, but I would never give it 100% of the responsibility of the road. I would be, engaged with it and watching and holding, but I'd turn it on. I'd let it like change lanes and kind of move for me, but my hand would be on the wheel. I wouldn't be one of those people who like bypass that. I saw there were people, I think if you took like an orange and stuck it in the steering wheel, like kind of wedged it in there, because if the autopilot thing will ding at you if you're not grabbing the wheel, and then it'll turn off and pull you over. But people did find like workarounds around that so they could.
I seen a video a while ago where dude in like LA traffic was like sleeping.
Right.
And it ended up hitting somebody because it malfunctioned somehow,
I still think like even with all that, like they have data on it and stuff, it's still far safer. And there are far less accidents.
For me, it's
like
not a safety thing. It's
right.
I like to drive. It's more just like the feel of doing it myself. So it's not that I don't trust.
But I've learned my lesson. I use technology in a lot of aspects and like both of my jobs and all this stuff. And like they've all failed on me at some point in time. So it's like if you're 100% dependent on technology, you're going to get creamed. So I think the same would apply to a car like that. But I definitely want one, and I would use the features and stuff, but I would use them in a far more responsible manner. I'd like to think, but part of what you were getting at is why I also like to drive. And from what I've learned, I've never ridden in one. I've never driven one. I know people who
supposedly fast.
They're amazing. The acceleration's ridiculous. They handle well. It's a quiet ride.
Rogan says it's his second favorite car.
Yeah.
And that's behind like he's got some crazy like super nice hot rod that's like a $200,000 car.
Right.
The only thing about Teslas is even like the really base models are super expensive.
Like the Model 3 is the cheapest one, and I think if you go base package, you're going to be around $40,000-$50,000.
Yeah, that's like half my house. So it's like that's cool, but I do feel like one day I'll get a Tesla. Maybe. Dude, the way our government's going, we probably have to get one. Dude.
Right. I'm seriously like, I like the doors that open like wings.
Our township like sent us a deal last week about their stuff that they're wanting people to come and like give input during meetings and stuff about, and one of them was like paying for and opening up all these stupid
charging
things, and it's like, dude, probably 5 people at best in Battle Creek on one, and like you expect
you'll see more and more. I see them all
like money.
I remember watching, like, because at first I always keep an eye out for them, And like
we
it
have
was
them
always like
here.
an interesting day when I'd be like, ooh, I saw a Tesla today.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I see countless Teslas every day.
So the town that's closest to us is called Marshall. They're kind of like you can
More
tell they like to be trendy and like
yeah.
more whatever, but they got them right in
Kind
the
of bougie.
downtown.
It's a bougie town.
Bourgeois. The bourgeois.
Over, and then
Yeah,
you
it's
got the
funny.
Battle Creek,
They're in
like
the
blue
same
collars.
county. Dude, it's hilarious. They're in the same county. So our county commissioners are over there. That's where their main office is. So that's, of course, Marshall's nicer.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like the downtown area
It's the
is
same
like
thing you
super
see
nice.
like around here. Or yeah, like it's funny. But so Billionaires in Space, it also just sounds like the title of a cool movie. I would watch Billionaires in Space.
It'll probably be the name of the documentary they make about him in the next like 30 years when he ends up going to Mars. Dude, that's gonna be the thing that like I ain't even gonna lie, and I don't mean to sound like crazy. I'm a little skeptical that we actually did go to the moon.
I hear compelling arguments that make me doubt. I also think it's completely possible. That's why, like, I nothing is out of
if
the
we
realm of
did, I'm not
possibility.
gonna be like. That's why I'm saying I'm not trying to make it like, oh, we didn't go to the moon. No, I'm a bit skeptical.
Would
However,
the government lie to us about that?
Yeah.
No.
And here's the
would
thing,
never,
like
they would never do that.
Here's what I actually think. I think Russia could never do it. I don't think they could even get close, and America realized that real quick. And all they had to do is give a
Spike the
compelling,
ball, put it in the end zone, to be like, we
give a
did
compelling thing that made it look like they did.
Yeah.
You know, there's like a radiation ring, and I don't know exactly how far from Earth it is, but it's in between Earth and the moon. And all I've heard and read about that is it will absolutely kill you if you go through it. And it's like, so they went through it twice.
Unless you're wearing a special space suit.
But even that, they're saying there's nothing that we have, especially back then. Because like, dude, if you go and look at what they used back then to go in space, and like, I mean, it is so
we're using better technology right now.
Dude, my cell phone puts that technology to shame. Dude.
Yeah.
I mean, like when they first went into space, I mean, they literally just put them in a cannonball and shot them up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's I'll give
but
credit
I do,
to
you're right. Like, I mean, it could go either way. I don't know.
Was it Shepard? Something Shepard? Alan Shepard? Is that the first dude that went into space for America?
I don't know.
I think
sounds like
right.
a nerd to me. Some nerd in space. Well, it's funny. Like Norm Macdonald had a bit on that whole deal because it was about everybody knows Armstrong, and like but there was the guy who stayed in the thing. Like he didn't even get out and go step on the moon. He's got to watch out that little porthole window while they're like swinging golf clubs and riding around rovers. What the hell? They got a rover. Like he had to stay in the shuttle.
Probably sitting there
nobody
thinking,
knows his name. Nobody remembers that guy.
I wonder if he ever had any thoughts about just taking off without him.
Right, just leaving them there. Suckers.
No one will ever know.
Yeah, Billionaires in Space. Another thing I'd written down was just, I mean, we saw a lot of censorship this, and we kind of talked on, and we got these huge platforms that are just, I mean, the fact that Donald Trump, the sitting president of the United States, was banned from like the biggest social media platform is ridiculous.
Which is interesting because that's basically what got him elected in the first place.
Yeah.
His ability to speak.
He played that game better than anybody else, for sure.
Dude, to the point where like every other official was like, oh crap, I got to tweet now all the time. Mm-hmm. And it was funny because they thought they were always being clever and all this, where he just trolled the crap out of everybody. Like that's what made it just horse face, like that stuff was just great.
The nicknames and all that. But like the fact that he was still in office and they removed him from Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
That's
insane. I'm really interested to see what his social media thing is going to turn out to be.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
I heard he's working with Rumble. Did he buy Rumble?
I don't know. It's hard to even kind of keep up because he's blacklisted from like everything. You have to like get news secondhand, or you have to like get his email alerts or whatever. But I mean, that was just a wild thing that Twitter did that. And I can't, like, that's why, like, I mean, I had an account, that, I mean, I deleted it on purpose. I've also been suspended and banned from Twitter numerous times for not playing nice and not following their stupid terms of agreement or whatever. But after they removed Trump, I deleted my account that did follow all the rules because I was like, yeah, no, I'm done with you people. Obviously, it's not like I was sticking it. They're going to feel this. I'm going to show you Twitter. Now I'm not there. But like,
their
I couldn't
viewership is
believe it.
not even that high. Like if you actually look at how many people are like at their highest point.
Yeah, it's not the world. It's not the big influential
very,
kind of
very
thing.
little actually.
But it is an amazing, like, and especially during times of like just important stuff. Like, I mean, it was an amazing thing, like, in resource for like immediate information and on the ground kind of stuff. Like when all these like riots were happening or whatever and all that. I mean, like you were there and you were getting news in real time through Twitter. That was an amazing part of it. And now we got a new CEO, Jack Dorsey stepped down, and this new CEO, right when he came, it came with some new rules. And now that you can't post pictures or videos of people without their permission. So that's another way that they're going to be able to shut down and censor any video like that. Like how Tim Pool became super popular was like being on the ground and at these protests and all this stuff. Can't do that anymore because you can't film like these people and put them on Twitter without their consent and their thing. So it's an easy way to shut down any sort of dissent or anything that goes against the the approved narrative.
That would make
it makes Twitter useless and like,
well, it changes your platform. And
Twitter was so great when it first started.
That's what everyone's been arguing this whole time. Same with Facebook. When there was no regulation, when it was just like, hey, you guys aren't going to be held responsible for anything anyone's posting on here. You're literally just giving them a means to post their own material.
The difference between a platform and a publisher.
Yep. And then the individual person, dude, like, because here's the thing, like, let's say you on Facebook, you recorded yourself like raping a little girl. Facebook could give that to the authorities. I mean, it's not like there's anything in the stipulations that they can't, but like they don't have to take it down. You let the authorities deal with that. You know what I'm saying? But the fact that like they would leave something like that up, but like if you and me even would say something about like Donald Trump and the word vaccine and ivermectin all in the same sentence, like boom.
Yeah, you're getting disinformation. You get a little label over and your video would be covered up. It makes me really feel bad about how we did Tom from MySpace. You know, he never banned anybody. He never censored any posts. MySpace was
Tom from MySpace.
Tom from MySpace. We did you dirty, dude. Forgive us. Take us back, Tom.
That's funny. That was such a like quick thing too. It was crazy how fast MySpace came up and then it went to Facebook.
Yeah.
Because I remember like Facebook, it was a while. It took me a couple years. And it was only because Paige would not print any more of our like family pictures. They're always on Facebook and I couldn't see them unless I had a Facebook account.
Right.
So I was like, all right, I guess I'll just go on Facebook. And then
and that's another one of those downsides, because if you don't somehow like archive that or have all that on another, like an external hard drive or somewhere else,
which we do,
Facebook, and anybody who's smart would, because that'll all go away when Facebook goes away, and Facebook will go away. Like, I mean, everything ends, and I don't like, there still has a pretty strong, grip right now, and they're changing with the whole metaverse thing and stuff like that. But kids nowadays, they don't care about Facebook. They're not on Facebook. They're on like Instagram and TikTok. But
Snapchat, is that
Snapchat?
Is that even a thing? I don't know.
That's a thing.
See, that's what, like, the only social media app I have is Facebook, and I don't barely even use it. Like, I don't. I probably could be more connected to the social media thing, but even then, like I said, there's not that many people per platform in the big scheme of the picture, so it can be very echo chamber very fast.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even matter what your opinion is.
It is.
Like,
I used to love it. I used to be very involved on there and like really active, posting a lot of funny stuff.
Well, before the algorithms completely took over and
they changed everything
too.
I liked it when it was a chronological, like, and just
there was a time posted
when Facebook scrolled even, and you would look at it and it would just keep going bloop, bloop, like as things came in, they would move, and that was the best of Facebook. And then like, that's kind of what Twitter was like early on in Twitter too. So that was a fun kind of deal there. But yeah, the whole social media thing, there's, again, like, because you got to put YouTube in that conversation as well. YouTube is a social media platform, but And with all of them, I'm like, I hate them all, but I also love and value them all because like I've gotten like Facebook helps me keep in touch with family who's all, around the country. Twitter keeps me up to date with, current events and things that are happening in real time. YouTube is the most, I watch YouTube more than anything else. I watch YouTube more than TV or Netflix or whatever. So there's great benefit to all of them, but there's so much garbage too that it's a total love-hate relationship and a definite double-edged sword kind of thing.
Well, and it's really unfortunate now because I'm like, I definitely for social media, if you will, use YouTube more than anything.
Yeah. But even
And
they
now
have censored
so
all my
much-
favorites. Gavin
but that's
McInnes, not
just
on
it.
YouTube. Milo Yiannopoulos, not on YouTube. Donald Trump, like whatever and
That's
it's
just it.
Alex Jones. I love Alex Jones, by the way. Alex Jones rules. He's, again, like with everybody else, he's not right all the time. He's more entertaining than he is informative and stuff for me. But like Alex Jones rules. He's awesome. And I love it when he gets together. Last time we were talking, I brought up the Tim Pool had Alex Jones, Michael Malice, Blair White, and Joe Rogan all on the same episode. And it was wild.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting, dude. It was funny. Some of the faces, but you could see Tim was like, everyone's always like,
there was that
like,
dude, I think his name was Drew. He was the one who videotaped the Kyle Rittenhouse deal or whatever. Like every time he would talk, you could tell like Rogan hated him. Just like he was constantly making face. And then he was the one that was going back and forth with Michael Malice because he kept talking about the Constitution or whatever. And Malice is like, okay, Mr. Constitution, because Malice as an anarchist, views even the Constitution as like an overreach of power and stuff like that we never agreed to or whatnot. But it was a wild episode. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm a huge Alex Jones fan. InfoWars and Alex Jones, boom, off of YouTube, because they were huge. They were too influential. And now they've disabled the dislike button because every White House video would have tens of thousands of dislikes and like a couple hundred up thumbs maybe. And then you go to Bill Gates. Go to Bill Gates' YouTube channel. Comments are off for sure. You cannot comment on a Bill Gates video because it'll get out of hand for them very quickly. So you can't see the dislike count and you can't comment on stuff like that. The White House learned their lesson pretty early too. And, so yeah, they shut her down as well. And it's like, that's just so telling to anybody that's not an idiot. Anybody with the minimal amount of common sense should look at that and be like, there's something going on here.
I always say if your ideas can't be like disagreed with, they're not that strong.
Right.
They're just
if
not.
They can't hold up to scrutiny or to, cross-examination, they don't hold water.
Yeah.
Alec Baldwin's a murderer. That was
that's one thing I so care so little about it, and it's gotten so much attention that it's like I don't care. I really don't. There's a lot of big trials going on right now, so it's like
right. We got Ghislaine Maxwell. The Rittenhouse verdict was I think the right one. And then what else? There was another like big one that was like either ongoing or just happened. What was
the
that?
Theranos chick is being tried right now.
Yeah, I'm still thinking of something else though.
What her name is?
I don't know, but yeah, you're right. There are like some big, just like cases or things that are going on. And Alec Baldwin and a bunch of Hollywood
massive
nerds,
implications,
right? To like to us.
Rittenhouse's trial was a big deal.
If he would have been found guilty,
dude, I would have been
gone, and you just must allow a mob to beat you to death.
Yeah,
that's going to happen.
Things could have just gotten so bad from that. I mean, they had already been emboldened so much to do all the stuff that they were doing, and what led to him being there in the first place. Yeah. And now you're just gonna let him get away with attacking people, and it's like, yeah, I get it. Everyone has an opinion on that, but watch the video, watch the whole video, and you'll see everything that happened.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And these are grown adults. These are grown adults attacking a 17-year-old, and I don't care if he was
who had a gun, so they're dumb too to begin with. But yeah,
one of them had a gun too, so it's not like he was this lone assailant with a weapon out there. I guarantee if you look closely in those videos, multiple people have guns. And in fact, when he's laying on the ground not shooting, you can hear gunfire going off, which might have triggered him to shoot, thinking he's being fired. I mean, dude, I love how everyone acts like they would have the best reaction in crazy moments
Right.
like that.
And
Like we're
which,
all Rambo.
and
You
if that
know,
were the case, if you like to just really, and like, again, with common sense and logically break down those events, Kyle Rittenhouse showed amazing poise under pressure. And like, I mean, he fired three shots, three times, like had the, it was very quick, only at people who were attacking him. I don't know. He
I
showed
think it
great
was
restraint the
more
whole
than
thing.
that because I think he shot Rosenhaus more than once.
I
I
don't
think
know.
he shot
I don't
him a
have my
couple
phone on me
times,
right now. I'd
but
Google
it
it.
was fast. I mean, it was like, you know what I'm saying? Like
The
it,
whole thing lasted seconds.
I'm not gonna even remotely act like I would have responded any differently.
So
Like,
I put on like one of the hosts of the Four Outdoorsmen and I, we do carry permit classes for people. And one of the things that we talk about is like training and practicing with your firearm, because in a situation like that, most of the time it comes down to muscle memory, especially like if the first time you use your gun is in a moment of
oh,
duress and like stress,
someone's
you're
gonna get killed.
something's
That's
going
not,
wrong.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
not, you'll fumble it, do whatever. So like you got to practice with it and be ready, because it turns into like muscle memory at that point, and it's a lot harder than people think to be able to defend yourself in a situation. So like what Kyle Rittenhouse did was actually quite impressive.
Yeah. No,
Um,
and the thing is too is he never shot in an like he wasn't running at people
he
shooting
didn't
at them.
point his weapon at people
Yeah.
until they were
And
running
the
after
whole
him.
time he was running away to the police. That was pretty clear because that's where he
Yep.
ended up was
Turned
running
himself in immediately.
Yep.
Did what he did. He did everything right.
And
As far as
even
I'm
told
concerned.
him what happened. I just shot people down there.
Yeah.
Like I mean, dude, like you couldn't get a more clear case. And here's the thing too, like the ones that one of the dudes that has been on Tim Pool, um, they were like journalists or whatever, was there and actually helped Rosenbaum. Maybe it was one of the
I think
guys
it
that
was that
got
Drew guy, the
shot.
guy that videoed
Was
it,
it
the guy that Rogan kept
the
rolling
one
his
with
eyes at.
the mustache? Does he got a little
Yeah,
funky mustache? Um, he like, dude, he eyewitnessed like as close to the whole thing. Got helped get the dude on an ambulance, and even he the whole time was like, right now it's self-defense, man. Like, and he's not a conservative, not, you know what I'm saying? Like,
didn't really have a dog in the fight. It was just, it is what
yeah.
it is.
If anything, he's probably more liberal than anything. And most of those guys are. Tim Pool is. If anything, he's more liberal than
Classical
conservative
liberal
for sure.
Yeah.
You know,
Moderate.
Rogan's not conservative really.
Although
In a
he's
weird sense.
if unless you ask somebody from the left, they'll say he's a far
Yeah.
right extremist.
Yeah, I know. Well, because
a lot of these people
because
are
he's a
shifting right.
hunter.
Yeah,
Anything
he
with
likes
guns, if
firearms.
you're pro Second Amendment, you are a far right.
But the
far right
Overton
extreme.
window is shifting, and like, I mean, it does, like, I would say he leans more right than he would even admit, probably. But
Well, underlying a lot of libertarians are just secret conservatives. They just don't know it yet.
I like Malice's quote, though, that even like conservatism is progressivism driving the speed limit. So that's why I'm more a libertarian than anything. I even border on anarchy.
But see, that doesn't make sense because the very definition of conservatism is conserving values. So
yeah,
you
but
can't
what have they
progress them
conserved?
if you're conserving.
What have they conserved? That's a topic for a whole other
Oh,
show.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think everything's worth conserving, but
Right.
there are like Christian conservative values, absolutely.
But and those exact
You
things
know?
are the things that they've failed to conserve or are failing to conserve.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying we haven't conserved them well, but that's the whole point of conservatism is to conserve them.
Right. If I had to pick, between
what we
right or
have
left,
now
I'd
in the
definitely more
GOP
right.
is not conservative.
No,
That's
especially
the
in
problem.
Minnesota. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Anything else on your list? Let's get close to wrapping up. I mean, the last thing that I had was just kind of the whole general supply chain thing and that whole deal. And it's more just let's go Brandon type stuff and how things suck. One of the ones that I've like, just when Trump was president, I could order Jimmy John's and they were freaky fast. I would have a sub here in no time. I tried to order Jimmy John's tonight and I couldn't. It is a Thursday night. It was like 6:30 p.m. No go. I see, things closing up all over the place. People don't want to work. We have cargo ships and containers just floating off the coast of our country that aren't. Everything is messed up. The supply chain issues are there. Are you seeing that out there in Michigan?
Oh, absolutely. And the biggest telling thing, so like, I mean, me and my wife own a business, so we have to like make sure we definitely order things way in time now. And we don't order a lot of stuff from China. We try to minimize that stuff, but let's be
It's
realistic.
almost
That's just
unavoidable at this point.
sometimes you can't even help it. Like you'll think you're
Right.
ordering it from someone in America, but they still distribute it from China. So it's
Yeah.
like, so that stuff has been a little bit messy, but like we still have been able to get what we need. But we've had to switch. I mean, it was more when COVID first hit, we had more problems then. Like
Then now.
because hand sanitizer became a big deal. Like you couldn't get plastic bottles with pumps anywhere,
All right.
So like we had to switch what we were putting stuff in even.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't switched since then, and everything's good. But like, I have a lot of friends that own like retail places, like pizza joints,
Mm-hmm.
places where you need
It's my
people
fam.
making some minimum wage. I mean, you're not making a lot of money, and dude, they cannot find anybody. Dude.
I went through a Burger King's drive-through the other day. I get up to the window. The guy goes, "Hey, it's just me here tonight. I don't have a cashier or anything like that." So, and then he just
Gonna
was
be a
like
while.
quiet, and I was like, "So I guess you're closed? Is that what you're telling me?" And he's like, "Yeah." It's like, "Oh,
Then
okay.
close your shit.
Then close your shit. What are you doing? Why are the lights on? Why did I pull up this window to talk to you to find out you're closed?" But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, and every time I experience something like that, and it happens a lot, it does frustrate me, and I immediately am like, "Ooh, Joe Biden! It's all Biden's fault." Which, I mean, it's not. He's one person. It's a bigger kind of deal. It's
Well, and
fun
the
to base
truth
blame
is,
on him.
the sick and sad part is that dude isn't even capable of feeding himself, so it's not his fault.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I don't mean to say that like even fittingly. Like
The guy
that's true.
can't
He
can't
falls
finish a
asleep
sentence.
in the
Yeah.
middle of important meetings and stuff like that. Like he is too
Rumor
old.
has it he pooped himself at the Vatican. I think that's hilarious. I don't know that it's true, and obviously there's no way to really verify, but it's funny. And I choose to believe. I choose to believe it's true. I believe Biden pooped himself at the Vatican.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it, dude. Ooh,
But
little
again, the
squirter.
best president we've ever had since Trump. So
Since Trump, yeah. But to see the progressives that are behind him,
oh yeah, it's
I'd say if they weren't so completely idiotic, it would be frightening. But these people are, I mean,
well, just all of these people. Look at these old dinosaur, lifelong career politicians. Why is Nancy Pelosi doing anything? And like get out of go be an old
dude.
grandma somewhere.
Schumer, dude, Sanders. I mean,
Mhm.
all these, especially the
Another one that goes back and forth
like,
with Elon Musk on occasion. It's pretty funny.
what's really fascinating is how popular he is, and it's like the guy is a total socialist, and he's a moron. I mean,
Right.
and he's a crook too. I mean, if you don't want to actually do it, doesn't even take much research to know that him and his wife were embezzling money through a company.
Well, and I think a lot of it goes
like,
down to, I mean, there's what's going on in universities and colleges and what these people are taught and the way that they're, because they no longer teach them how to think, they teach them what to think. And I think a lot of these people do just eat it all up, and they're full on. I see it happen. Like, and it's sad that we're at a point now where I literally have told friends of mine who have kids and stuff that are, juniors, seniors in high school. And I'm like, don't go to college. I know like that's not the thing you want to hear from me, telling your kid to not go, but like learn a trade, go to it, like something like that would be fine or whatever. But don't like, they will come back a different person, and it's not going to be a person you like. And yeah, I don't know. It's sad. And I've seen it happen. Like I've lost people to colleges. I've lost more people to colleges than I did to COVID. That's for sure.
it is bad. It is. I know there's schools you can go to that aren't like that, but there's not a lot
but
of
they're
them. And it
few
depends on
and
your
far
degree
between
too,
now. Yeah.
Well, and the sad part is there's even a lot of like seminaries or that like that. And it's
Well,
like that's the one place that shouldn't even be remotely around.
So I work at a church, right? Our church years ago started a food shelf called Hope for the Community, which is a separate 501c3 organization. Hope for the Community is like the main location is centered out of Hope Church, but like in the bags of groceries and stuff, we're not allowed to do any preaching. There's no New Testament snuck in those bags or whatever. It's not a thing. It's just we're here. here's food for you. You need help. You need food. We got it. Here you go. Be on your way. We've been expanding into colleges and helping. I mean, kids need food, like help. A lot of young kids. Augsburg College, which was started by Lutherans, turned down Hope for the Community because they're in their words, like, upon further research, we found that Hope for the Community is connected to Hope Church, and we just feel that that doesn't align with our multi-faith community. So a Lutheran church turned down a food shelf that was started by a Christian church, and this is a Lutheran college that did it. That's crazy.
Because of a lack of accepting multi-faiths.
Right. So
Which
I guess
a Christian church would, because they're a Christian faith.
And we don't check people that come in. Like, it's not like you got to be a Christian.
Hey, are you a Christian? You a Christian?
We serve nuns. The nuns is one of the fastest growing segments in the population too. The ones that believe in nothing, like no religion. But there's all of them are welcome here, and there's no questions asked. You could pull up in a Lexus, like a really nice car or whatever, and dressed well, looking like you don't need help, and we would still give you the food, like, because you never know what maybe you borrowed that suit and that car is not your own or whatever. There's nobody, we don't know. So it's like no questions. If people come looking for help, we give it to them. But Augsburg College turned down our assistance, and like we always say, we're not going to beg you to take our money or to take our help, and we'll find somewhere else to do it, and we'll help people there regardless. But I guess we won't help your people because you refused it. And that's just crazy. That was a shocking kind of deal when they turned us down. It was like weird.
Yeah,
that's
crazy.
The world we live in. Any predictions for 2022? Any hopes or predictions?
And they call us for next year?
Yeah.
No. Like, I pretty much expect it to be just as crazy and stupid as that.
And I think that's, if I've learned anything, it's that anything can happen. So I don't know. Yeah, my predictions for 2022.
I'm gonna say not any better or any worse, but just as stupid.
More of the same.
Yeah. Like I see it. There's gonna be 3 or 4 more variants next year, which means like 9
There'll always be
boosters.
A new variant. Yeah.
It's funny because if you go back, like, the same crap, they peddle the same crap. It's just fear and
well, let me just give it a new name or a new thing. I mean, one of the things that I've been seeing a lot is people going, remember acid rain?
I know.
And that was supposed to be a big deal. That was going to, like, just end the world and the way we live. And acid rain, you got to worry about the acid rain. And then it's all like, climate's always something. There's always something with the climate. There's always some sort of acid rain. Now we got diseases, whatever. There's always something to be terrified of and something to declare an emergency over. And then if you give the government a permission to take certain powers during an emergency, they'll find ways to come up with emergencies. So yeah, probably more of that in 2022.
But it's also fascinating too, because like, if you look at the big picture, it's always going to look like that. It seems like when you look at the nation, it's always going to look crazy. But individual communities is
the world's going to do what the world does.
You can still see a lot of good too.
Hope it's there, man.
But it's hard to see it in the big picture because that's generally where the
CNN
chaos
anchor,
happens.
or maybe even, I don't know, I think it was MSNBC. I think it was Chris Hayes had some tweet about being like, I just want to wake up one morning to like big good news or whatever. And I was like, dude, I do that like every day. I don't like you know how I do it is by not listening to a-holes like you and like turning on your propaganda machine.
Well, and associate with people that do good stuff. I mean,
right.
Like,
it's
our
good.
church just finally took a picture of the angel tree, which like every year we outdo ourselves from the year before. And it's like, you know how many kids are going to get Christmas presents this year when they normally wouldn't? Because people at our church are just giving and loving and want that. Like, that's something good. And I choose to participate in that.
Yeah.
Rather than sit there and complain, because there's
so, like,
plenty of bad stuff, dude. I don't need to, dude, storms, like.
I mean, those tornadoes that just happened were crazy.
And
we're recording this now here in the middle of December. It's December 16th that we're recording this, but I think it will put it out, in the beginning of 2022. But yeah, so we just had some pretty crazy weather. Bad things are going to happen. But it's funny. So like right after that Augsburg thing went down and they turned us down, we literally got $180,000 from TPC Rose, which is a philanthropist organization, donated $150,000 to the food shelf. Just nice. One of the members, one of the people that volunteers and helps out, gave us $25,000. And then an old friend from our pastor, just out of the blue, hit him up and was like, "Hey, my business did real well this year. I'd love to gift you guys $5,000. Can I do that?" And it's like, yeah, you can. And we will do great things with it. So yeah, there's far more good than bad out there. And it's, if you turn off the news and you get your head out of your phone long enough to just enjoy life and the people around you, you'll see that. And I
Well,
hope that people do.
like 5 years ago, dude, I was probably just like most of these other chumps and just sat there and complained about what I saw on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And then like a lot of things happen which aren't particularly important right now, but once I got out of doing that and actually participating in some of that good stuff and not just wishing it would happen or like thinking people were out there doing things, even if I was only participating in small ways, like way more fulfilling and like I have way less time to sit there and complain about bad crap.
You know
what
what
I'm
time for
saying?
that. I'm too busy
Even
doing
through
stuff.
COVID, I mean, dude, like
Right.
I'm sorry, like we enjoyed ourselves the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I
Did
did
I.
plenty of
I
stuff.
did
I got to
things.
go to Florida
I
on
saw
vacation.
people. I hugged people. I
Dude,
face-to-face conversations with those that I loved. And
I seen you in person since
Yeah.
then, and so it's like, and I don't regret that.
No.
I'm not like, man, I put him at risk. That wasn't worth it. No, it was totally worth it. And we're good, and so
I think the takeaway is it is what you make it. You can make it, miserable and full of doom and gloom.
mm-hmm.
Because that's we like, I see two kind of different countries right now here. I mean, I can only really speak on our world, our country, the world that I live in, but you got the United States of America and the United States of mopes. And there's a bunch of people out there just moping around. And it's
so I got
100% a choice.
I got a quote that'll actually be perfect for what we were just talking about. It's going to end this out. It says, I believe in Christianity as I believe that the sun has risen, not only because I see it, but because by it, I see everything else. C.S. Lewis.
Boom.
And it's just, like I'll choose to look at the world through the worldview that I have. And I see Christ and moving and doing things all over the place. And I know his kingdom is still very present. So like, to me, I focus on that rather than on the stuff that's not going right. Cause whatever.
What good's that going to do you?
Yeah.
I think that's perfect. That's a great place to wrap it up. This has been the first installment of Common Sense. We'll do it again. We'll catch you next time on Common Sense.
Wow.
We out.